How you doing? I did a video a couple of weeks ago on this thermal scope that I've just bought, and I really wanted to go into it in a little bit more detail, actually using it in the field. I see a lot of videos of these where people are, saying the virtues of using these for wildlife photography, and then you'll get loads of pictures of like the cow in the backfield or the local, stray cat. So what I've done today, I wanted to test this both at night time and in the daytime, which is, both of those applications I'll use it for. So tonight I've come to one of my local woodlands. It's really quite a small woodland. I think the walk I'm going to do is probably less than a mile through the wood, down the bottom, and then come back up. And I'm hopefully going to be able to show you on this what I can see. Now it's going to be quite difficult because nighttime takes away one of the things that I've got that I usually use when I'm looking for wildlife, and that is I can't really see where I'm walking. So I'm not going to be using a head torch. I'm just going to have the night vision on this, but it's not really going to show me if there's a really snappy twig that I'm just about to stand on, so it could be quite a challenge. And also what I want to try and do as much as possible is when I see something is film it and also talk to you at the same time, again, which could be quite difficult. So we'll see how we get on. But then also what I want to do, I want to repeat the same thing in the daytime, just to show you what this can see in the daytime. And then to wrap it all up, I really just want to do a little bit of a summary of why I think that's useful for a wildlife photographer, but also what its limitations are and how you need to use it with all your other skills. Anyway, let's see if we can make this work. I'm going to head off into this pitch black woodland in the middle of nowhere, and hopefully this is going to work. But yeah, it sounded like a good idea at the time, but yeah, could be quite fun. Anyway, I'll catch up with you in a bit. Right, so hands up straight away. I didn't manage to use this and film at the same time. It was incredibly difficult trying to concentrate on using this, and then I thought, because I couldn't see anything, it was really difficult to try and get all the filming gear out and be quiet at the same time. So in the end I just thought, no, that's not going to work. So what I've done, I've just recorded as I went along. So initially I just went through the gate, and almost straight away on the left hand side, a 10-metre stretch of brambles that are about 3 meters deep, and just to the other side, as you can see here, there's a muntjac deer laid down. Now because it was completely pitch dark, I've not got a head torch on, this muntjac was completely relaxed that I was there. Obviously thought I couldn't see it, which with this I could. Gave me some really good views actually, and I just went through one or two of the pallets with this particular scope, and I do understand that a lot of them, these thermal cameras, do have different colour palettes that you can use. I went into it a little bit in the last video. I find that some of the brighter ones are a bit taxing on the eyes at night, because you've got a blinding light in one eye when you're looking through it, and then if it's completely pitch black, you can't see when you've taken your eye away. It sort of blinds you a little bit. So I like some of the more subdued, the green and the iron red, a little bit more at night. They all work really well, so it's not a problem. But yeah, after I'd filmed that, I walked a little bit further down the ride, and what I noticed was if I focused on the floor sort of 5 meters away from me, I was getting a lot of movement in the undergrowth, and it was basically small mammals. You'd got a lot of voles and I think long-tailed field mice running around. Now you might say to me, well, I'm not interested in mice, I don't want to photograph mice, but that's giving you information. So if you've got information that there's all these small mammals in the woodland, that can tell you that potentially there's other things that are going to feed on them that are also in the woodland, and we'll get to that a little bit later. What I was also seeing quite a lot was in this particular woodland there's a lot of old trees that are covered in ivy, and just tree trunks that have the trees long since died, and you've just got a pole full of ivy sticking up. And in a lot of these I was getting these heat signatures, and what I think these are is roosting small birds. So obviously they get into there where they're safe, and then they roost for the night. And yeah, there were numerous of those around. Something else that I was looking out for as well. Now when I got down onto the main ride, I had a really good encounter. So I could see something moving probably about 250 metres away down this long straight ride. And I had a look through the scope and I could see straight away that it was a badger. So what I had to do was get down on one knee, actually as if I was going to try and photograph it, because obviously badgers have got a really good sense of smell and really good hearing. So if I'd have in the dark tried to walk down towards it, the first stick I'd have stood on and it had snapped, the badger would have been away. So I had to wait and just trust that it was going to come towards me, and it did. And as you can see, I've got these really good footage of this badger with this scope. Eventually actually it went down the side of me, and I think the direction of the wind blew my scent onto it and it shot off into the woods. But really nice to see that, and again tells me that there's a really healthy set nearby. Now eventually I got down to the bottom of the woodland, and what I'd been looking for, and I have to be honest, I knew they were there because I could hear them. So again, you know, this is just one part of the puzzle. I'd got tawny owls calling constantly from different parts of the wood. Got down to the bottom, finally saw one up in a tree and located it with this, and then I had like 15 minutes where there were, I counted 4, but I think that potentially there were 6 in this small woodland, tawny owls calling between each other and flying around. Absolutely fantastic experience. And again for me, because tawny owls on my list of one of the birds that I want to get more photographs during the day. So if I know I've got a healthy population of tawny owls in that little small woodland, I need to do some more research to try and get locations of where they roost and potentially where nests might be, so that I can do further work and obviously try and get those images later on. But yeah, really fantastic, did a really good job at night. And then the following day I went back in the daytime, so yeah, let's see how I got on then. Morning everybody, how you doing? Well, as promised, back up at the same woodland in the daytime. Slightly different way into the woods today because there's a few cars parked at the top. A couple of people do walk the dogs, I think, in this woodland, or just go for a walk. So that could make things a little bit difficult, but that's always the same during the day, unless you own a private woodland or something that nobody else has got access to. So that could make it a little bit difficult. I've only walked literally 30 metres. And the video you're seeing now is roe deer. These were in the very edge of the woodland. Just caught them on the scope, and then they've headed across the field to another little copse a little bit further down. I think it backs up what I was saying, why we didn't see any of those on the video when I shot here at night, because generally they're in the fields or on the edge of the woodland at night. They're travelling between woodlands, whereas the muntjac, they generally stay undercover most of the time in the actual woodland. So it was nice to see those straight away. They've headed off in that direction now, so I won't catch them in this wood again today, but really nice to see them and really nice start. What I'm hoping to do today is, I'm really excited about all those tawny owls that I saw. And what I want to try and do is see if I can catch up with any of those in the daytime where they're laid up. So that, I mean, I've bought the camera today just in case. I am loaded up a little bit like a one-man band. I haven't got the cymbals between my knees yet. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but I want to try and record more or less after I've seen something. I'll get back to you and tell you what I've seen and put the video up while I'm out here. So hopefully can catch up with those tawnies, and then if I do, it'll give me an idea as the sort of springtime comes. And when they've got youngsters, where I can actually catch up with them and get some images of them and the young. So yeah, let's see what we can do. Right, hopefully you can see from this shot here, I've just shot this. Those roe deer headed off into one sort of little copse, and then they've shot across another field. And that field must be close to it must be about, between a third and a half a mile away up on the hillside there. And this scope picked them up really easily. Obviously, the further away you get, the more difficult it is to show what it is that you're looking at, which is why in my conclusion, sort of the end of this video, I'm going to say, a few things about how I think these should be used. I've also just been over sort of looking through the hedge here, and on this video you can see there's loads of really small birds that are feeding on the forest floor, completely invisible to the naked eye. You just can't see them. and but with the scope you can clearly see that heat signature, so it does give me a bit of hope for these tawny owls. If I can point it at the right tree, I should be able to see a heat signature. A lot of the times tawnies in the daytime will be in holes inside trees, they might just be peeking out, but if you remember from the initial video I did with this scope, I'd got a squirrel dray down in a tree stump, and you could actually see the heat through the stump. So hopefully I should get some sort of signature. Anyway, we'll see what happens, but yeah, so far pretty good. And you know, as a tool for using it during the daytime, it's proving that yeah, it is a really useful tool. So we'll see what else we can see, and I'll get back to you in a bit. Right, so I just thought I'd point this little bit out to you as well. I happen to know here there's a badger set, so if you look at this film here, you can see there's a bank in here, but there's all these hot spots, and all those hot spots are where the entrance to the badger set is. So there's numerous holes. There's some that aren't showing any heat, but the majority of them have got a heat signature, and that'll be because the badgers are down there and that heat is coming up from their body heat and then obviously coming up through the entrance. So from that you can tell that this is an active badger set. So again, even though we're not seeing the actual badger like we did at night, we know that they're in there because we've got that heat signature coming up from the set. Right, I want to do a quick summing up of thermal scopes in general. You'll notice I haven't really mentioned what this one is. This is because this is one that I've bought myself. I've not had it handed to me by a company, so I'm free to say whatever I like about thermal scopes in general. What I would say is that I've found this one really useful. So but what I've really enjoyed about it, for me as not only a wildlife photographer but a wildlife watcher, is being able to see another part of animals' lives. So seeing them in the night time, you get to see the behavioural changes that there are. So a lot of the time they feel a lot more relaxed. Look at that muntjac deer, quite happy to lie down, probably no more than 8-9 metres in front of me, because it thinks it's not observed. It's safe behind all those brambles, so it's quite happy and relaxed just to lie there and completely ignore me. And you do get that sense that you're getting a peek into animals' lives that you wouldn't normally get. So I've really enjoyed that. As regards wildlife photography, I think they can make a difference in some situations. So take the last video I did where I managed to get woodcock on these. Now woodcock are a bird that I've only ever seen as it's been flying off from close to my feet when I've been going through a woodland, and I've just not seen them because the camouflage is too good. With this, if I know there's potential for woodcock in an area, I can scan it and these will pick it up 20-30 metres away, no problem at all. So in some situations they do give you a definite edge as a wildlife photographer. Now the things that obviously are against them is they're expensive. Now you can get lower resolution ones, and I'm not 100% sold that you need to have the highest resolution as a wildlife photographer, because a lot of the time you're using this in conjunction with your other skills. So woodcock situation for a start. If I'm looking for woodcock, I've already decided this is a suitable woodland, it's the right time of year, there could be woodcock here, then I use this. If I see something laid low to the floor, not moving, I'm probably 80-90% sure it's going to be a woodcock. So I don't necessarily need full detail. The badger, for instance, that I got, I saw it 250 metres away, and I could tell by the behaviour when it was just a blob on here at 250 metres before I zoomed in, that's a badger. I could tell by the way it was moving, it was close to the ground, just the behaviour of it. Having studied badgers over the years as a wildlife photographer, I knew it was a badger. So you don't necessarily need the highest resolution because you're using it with your other skills. This is just like the icing on the cake a lot of the time. and they're not the answer to everything. So if you get one of these, the temptation is to take it out and do everything with it. And I have to say, a lot of the time, you know, sometimes binoculars are a better option. These have quite, even though this is quite a wide field of view for a thermal scope, they are quite narrow compared to binoculars. And you could see from when I was trying to get that tawny owl flying across, very, very sharp, narrow field of view. So obviously if you'd got binoculars and you were viewing that in the day, you would be able to track that owl really easily, because you've got a much wider field of view a lot of the time with most binoculars. So not the answer to everything, and you have to pick and choose when you're going to use it. And lastly, I would say, you know, all the way through this video, I've said that it's a useful tool to have, and it is, but it needs to be used as a tool in conjunction with everything else. And when I'm talking about everything else, I'm talking about, you know, your field skills, your tracking skills. Tawny owls, for instance, did I really need this to know that there were tawny owls in that wood? Well, I went into the wood and I could hear them. So straight away I knew there were tawny owls in that wood because I recognised the calls. This was just a way of actually seeing the tawny owls, but I knew they were there. So when I got to the daytime, I was hoping to be able to see them, and I can't find them. When I talk about in the video, there's a lot of ivy covered trees. There are some quite big ones, quite wide, and I think potentially the tawny owls are in holes or cracks in those trees. Then they've got a second barrier of ivy around them, which makes it extremely difficult for this to see through. So in a way, this tech helps in some situations, but I'm left down to good old-fashioned tracking skills, really. I've got to go back to the wood, I've got to look round the base of all those trees, and I've got to look for field signs, so pellets, whitewash. That's what I'll be looking for. That will then identify where the potential hole is or crack where that owl is living, and where there might potentially in the springtime be a nest. So yeah, they're great, they're not always necessary, but if you can afford one, certainly very useful tool to have. Anyway, I hope that's been useful to you if you're thinking about getting one of these thermal scopes. For me, as I say, I think the most joy I've had out of this scope is just watching animals' behaviour at night when they think I'm not being able to see them. It's been fantastic, so adds another dimension. I hope it's been useful to you. If it has, please give the video a thumbs up, it really does help. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, then please think about subscribing, hit that bell to be notified when I get another video out, and I will see you soon for another one. Bye.